standards and culture. Overcoming cultural norms is often incredibly difficult, but it can be done through the use of third parties, the reframing of standards, and an understanding of their perceptions. Carter Mayfield was invited to stay at his girlfriend Sheila's house, which was full of guests. Cher's father, Justin Alley, who was Persian, prepared to sleep on a couch and give all the bed to his guests. This was a cultural norm. To do otherwise would be to lose face. After consulting with Sheila, Carter looked through the TV guide and found a program he really wanted to see. He asked Sheila to tell her father that Carter really wanted to see the TV program. It could only be seen from the couch, and it would be rude not to let him see it. Another standard was found. Mr. Ellis slept in his own bed. Carter said, "Such a small thing, yet such a big thing." Carter, now a family business executive in Texas, married Sarah. In Chapter 1, I mentioned that various women from India had gotten out of their own arranged marriage using horse tools. Here's the story of one of them. Let's call her Dana. Her parents wanted her to marry someone from her own sect. It's a tradition that began in the 4th century. Even today, 90% of marriages in India are arranged, but Dana loved someone else from another sect. Her father seemed persuadable, but her mother was absolutely outraged at the thought during a tough one winter break. "We would have to walk with our heads down," her mother said. Indeed, one of Dana's cousins refused to marry her chosen spouse some years before and was disowned by the family. No one even spoke to her for years. So, during the course, Dina did a role reversal exercise with some other negotiation students to try to figure out what to do. The first thing I realized is that I had to validate my mother's feelings and not argue with her, Dana said. She wanted what was best for her children. Such an emotional payment could get a conversation started. Next, Dana would talk to her father, who was a lot more accommodating as long as the family's religion and traditions were followed. She would also talk to a family friend who had married a non-Indian and had a happy marriage. The endorsement of these third parties would further calm Dina's mother down and enable a reasonable conversation with Dina in very incremental steps over a period of time. Dina would next introduce her view to her parents, not in very formal settings, but just for them to see him. Her parents would feel consulted. Dina decided not to tell her view of the significance of the first meal. She wanted him to be natural. The man she loved was a professional. Dina had a good judgment in that regard. Dina also realized that if she got emotional at all, all was lost, since the situation was so incendiary to begin with. Dana's team in class practiced and prepared, and then did it again and again. When Dina went back to see her mother, she executed her strategy over a period of weeks, sometimes talking to her mother alone and sometimes with her father, always calm and empathetic. The result: my parents paid for the wedding and were proud parents, Dina said. The most important thing we learned was the power of using the negotiation tools in a structured way, Dina said. It's one thing to hear about the theory, it's quite another to practice putting out oneself in the other's shoes. Preparation is critical. Keeping up the emotional is essential. She said the whole exercise fundamentally changed her relationship with her mother for the better based on mutual respect and value. Dina is now living happily with a man she loves in California. She bridged big differences in culture worldwide. 60% of all marriages are arranged. Dina did what millions of women likely want to do but cannot because they lack the skill. She successfully negotiated for her life's happiness. Let's take a hard example: a young woman who is Israeli and who wants to marry a young man who is Iraqi. Let's say it's the 1970s or 1980s. What if they want to live back then? I don't think so. What if they want to live in Jerusalem again? I don't think so. If they want to live in New York City, maybe New York is more diverse and as such more tolerant. Let's think about what happens. The young woman talks to her mother. What does her mother say? Over my dead body, being calm, the young woman asks, but why? And of course, we all know the refrain. It will never work. Now, that is exactly what we want to hear. Why? Well, what has the young woman's mother given her? A big fat stomach. So if you are the young woman, you should be asking yourself, has it ever worked? And the answer is yes. My brother-in-law's sister, to name one, she's from religious Jewish family that survived the Holocaust. Her husband is an Iraqi who worked for the World Bank. They lived in New York City for years, 2 kids and 5 dogs, blissfully happy, and they aren't the only one. In fact, there are at least several hundred mixed marriages of Arabs and Jews in Israel alone. So, you need to stand out calmly in this relationship situation to make some headway here. But let's say your mother is clever, she says, but the chances are almost impossible that it will work. I bet only 1 out of 1,000 works. If that. What had your mother given you again? A big fat stomach. If you are the young woman, you say, but mom, don't you always say that your kids are the best? So, if anyone could succeed at this, wouldn't it be your kids? Of course, this is your emotional situation, and in and of itself, this will not be enough. A mother needs to meet the guy, and you will need to bring up the fact that there have been mixed marriage in the Old Testament. In other words, marrying young Jews is not, in and of itself, against tradition. Indeed, in the Bible, Moses, Sarah, Ismail, and Solomon were married non-Jews, and Abraham had a child with the non-Jews. Now that's a precedent. What this example shows is then you can begin to bridge what seem to be big cultural differences by finding and addressing the pictures in the other person's head. Culture and business. Let's look at an example that involves a business situation, one that has occurred several times with my students. It demonstrates the kind of incremental steps and role reversal necessary to bridge cultural gaps. You are a smart female graduate of a business school. You have accepted a job as an associate in the Tokyo office of a major international consulting firm based in the United States. It's a 2-year assignment. You've been to Japan on various trips and speak Japanese pretty well from your studies and visits. You are assigned to be the main contact with the traditional Japanese manufacturing company. Management and the board of directors are all male and very conservative. They will have nothing to do with you as a consultant. They go around you consistently to your boss, a man, or they treat you like a secretary. A 2010 report by the World Economic Forum said women occupy just 24% of company jobs in Japan, second lowest only to India with 23%. Among the 27 major countries studied, very few women are permitted into the corporate suite. Many women in the Japanese workforce do not require task-like serving tea. They are called OL or office ladies. Your choices are either to mark time in office for 2 years, returning to the United States with your career having advanced you very little, want to do something about it and shine. If you use the right negotiation tools, it will take about 6 months for you to become a full-fledged consultant respected by the Japanese company. Let's first consider how a traditional all-male Japanese management views a young, bright foreign woman in their mindset. In their midst, insulted as an advisor and essentially as an equal. The word that comes to mind is threat. Let's spell this out. A threat to the established order, a threat to 1,000 years of history, a threat to the cohesion of society, a threat to tradition. To them, it could easily suggest a breakup of the family. What if all women behaved this way? So, getting inside their heads is critically important. You may not like how this kind of inquiry makes some Japanese males feel, but we are here to deal with the real world. Of course, their perception and their feelings are just where we start our process of changing their perception to move forward, move toward our goals. As I mentioned, problems are the start of the analysis, not the end. Two key negotiation tools you need to look at here are the interest needs and third parties that could influence them. Let's first make a partial list of their needs, interests, to profit and attract the best people, and to be seen as innovative, socially conscious, internationally competitive, focused on the long term, and collaborating. And third parties, shareholders, employees, customers, governments, US partners, public, competitors, board of directors, media, and colleagues. Having done this, we can see how to reframe the situation. Far from being a threat, a young woman represents confidence, the future of Philippines. She is among the brightest of the new generation of young business people. As an American, she can address the need to be international. There are likely an increasing number of role models of women executives in Japan who have increased their company's positive public image and as such said. As you can see, we simply used the things important to the company's management because needs, business needs and people, and we showed that their actions, excluding the American woman consultant, did not meet the company's stated needs. If the company says that its needs also include keeping in tradition, it could be pointed out that many traditional Japanese companies are moving in this direction as well. Tradition is not stagnant. The samurai were replaced by modern soldiers. Horses have been replaced by cars. Now, the American woman is not the right person to make this argument on her own behalf to the traditional Japanese management. An American male counterpart in the consulting firm that already works with a Japanese company would make a better advocate, and the woman would have to prove herself professional, but little by little she would be able to gain the trust of the Japanese company's management. They would view her as having changed from a young foreign woman to a smart business advisor. The role played by the American male consulting firm manager is key in this situation. He is in the role of a cross-cultural interface manager, someone who knows both culture and is trusted by both. When the distance between people of two different cultures cannot be bridged by the parties, the cross-cultural interface manager can close the gap and more quickly. It is not the job of the interface manager to solve things. It is only the job of the interface manager to help in communications. The process is intended to get the parties to understand one another's perception, to send signals to enhance understanding. Remember, the differences here involve more than just language issues. In fact, if you have learned the other language fluently, it might work against you because people in the other culture often incorrectly assume that you are fluent in all other cultural matters. In other words, they are actually less tolerant of mistakes. I was working on a deal for the United Nations involving trade with Cuba, and I had a meeting scheduled with the executive vice president of a major pharmaceutical firm in Japan. I knew neither the Japanese culture nor the pharmaceutical industry culture very well at the time. I didn't need a translator between Japanese and English. The EVP, the pharma firm, spoke perfect English. Rather, I needed help with the cultural issues, which were even more important. I found a Japanese pharmaceutical consultant who had spent time in the United States and attended a program at work. I retained him and my interface manager to help me handle the meeting. We arrived at the company and were shown to a conference room. The executive vice president was not there yet. I immediately sat in the chair next to the door. In the United States, the chair across from where I was sitting, facing the door, was the chair of the respect. I wanted to leave that chair vacant for my post. No sooner had I sat down than my consultant gently pulled me up, led me around the table to the other side, and sat me down securely in the chair facing the door. In the US, he said, the host sits in the chair of respect, but in Japan, the chair of respect is given to the guest. When our host came in, he immediately saw three things. One, I was sitting in the right chair. Two, I had taken the trouble to find out which chair it was. Three, I brought with me a cultural translator to make sure it started and continued with a minimum of miscommunication. I was not trying to be like my host, speak his language, or immerse myself in his customs. I was trying to send a small signal that I understood there were cultural differences and wanted to find a way to talk effectively. The meeting went very well. This kind of strategy works in all kinds of situations, in many different cultural contexts. The first time I was planning to go to Ukraine, I was told that the standard for negotiation there was one bottle of vodka per person per negotiating session. This was not the kind of vodka that one buys in the store in the United States. This was the kind of vodka that one might use as lighter fluid. I don't drink. I don't drink vodka. I certainly don't drink lighter fluid substitutes, but I needed to do the negotiation. So I brought with me, please forgive me the stereotype, but alas, this is true, a 350-pound Irish investment banker who told me that no one would drink him under the table. I introduced him to our Ukrainian counterpart as my designated drinker. They were full with that. I never saw so much vodka consumed in my entire life by two people, and we did the deal. We had found a way to bridge cultural differences. Their real culture. Often people have a wrong idea about what constitutes another culture. Just because someone is Chinese doesn't mean they belong to the Chinese culture. They may have been raised in America and would be insulted if you assumed they follow Chinese customs and traditions. I once wrote an article about a professor at the State University of New York and Stony Brook. This professor, Hannah Servan, had retinitis pigmentosa, a degenerative eye disease that gradually narrows one's field of vision until one becomes blind. Dr. Servan, a brilliant independent thinker, was in the advanced stages of the disease, but he led an active life, traveling one stretch by himself armed only with his telescoping cane. He was an active member in a lot of academic societies as well as in Mensa, the society for those with a genius IQ. I asked him whether he belonged to societies for patients with retinitis pigmentosa. He responded indignantly, "They aren't scholars for the most part," he said. "All I have in common with them is a common affliction." Those words stuck with me. Here, the attribute that most onlookers would think was the most visible and defining part of his being was not even on his radar screen. One really needs to prove deeply to find out the culture to which the other party feels they belong. Following is a list that captures what one should think about in dealing effectively with those who are different. We put a lot of the tools from this book in a structure that can help anyone in getting more value from situations where people, at least at first, appear different from one another. Achieving agreement with those who are different. Develop goals. Find common goals. Involve common enemies. Paint a picture of the logical extreme. The risk in continuing the present course. Do role reversal. Who are they? Question your assumption. Find their dreams, fears. Listen for signal, verbal, non-verbal. Identify the knowledge that makes similarity, physical language, style. Articulate and value your differences. Find standards there and reasonable norms. Name bad behaviors and identify your own weaknesses. Insist on evidence to support all views. Be incremental in any suggestion. Focus on what is controllable. Consult before deciding. Bring them into the process. Ask their advice. Find models where the suggestions have worked. Insist on finding creative options. Is this the only way? Look for hidden agendas. Develop incentives to change them. Find their constituencies. Appeal to their values. Create a vision of the future. Discuss it with them. Create a new culture of those who want to make the change. The first thing, of course, is to identify your goals, do the action plan, meet your goals. Can you meet your goals given the people you are dealing with? The picture of the logical extreme is a pillar. It paints a vision for the party as to what will happen if you continue on this path. Bankruptcy. Years in court, nuclear war. I was once in a room with Israeli and Jordanian businessmen. I said, how about this as the answer for the Middle East? The party that wins is the party that kills everyone on the other side. Men, women, children, dogs, cats, goats, chickens, snakes, fish, worms, butterflies. They thought that was ridiculous, I said, but that's what you have to do, alright? You have to kill everyone, because if one thing is left standing, you still have a war. Someone is still going to try to kill someone on the other side of what happened yesterday. They could see that this was indeed the picture of the logical extreme. And it was not going to accomplish anyone's goals. I wanted them to consider better options, and I wanted it to be incremental into proportion, a little progress at a time. Are there some small examples where solutions have worked? Find them and apply them. Start build a coalition of people. Start with those who want to join a new way of doing things. Bring more and more people into the process. Ask people's advice. Develop incentives to change things that are hard to change. In May 2007, I conducted a two-day workshop for executives, educators, and government officials in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Riyadh is a very conservative city. We focused on the common bond that we had, improving process and result to the negotiation. In the sense, we were all part of the same culture, educated people try to do better. We had a great workshop in which we taught about 45 people, many dressed in tradition, traditional Arab works, the truth in these books. At the end of the third day, I felt the freedom to say, not every Israeli is your enemy, and not every Saudi is your friend. Some Israelis will make you rich, and some Saudis will steal you land. They got it. There were lots of notes in the classroom at Prince Sultan University, whose namesake and manufacturers is an heir to the company's throne. The group included the head of the city's Chamber of Commerce, the president of some of the largest companies in Saudi Arabia, and the head of Prince Sultan University. It is possible to deal with the vast differences between two groups, one individual, calmly, effectively, and in a way that creates lasting value. You just have to try.